So, Randy, over the course of your 20 years of experience, obviously there have been people that have influenced you in a positive way, whether professionally, personally, etc. Uh, who are some of those influences, whether a mentor, boss, or something like that? Who are some of those people for you?
Good question. So when I started in the late 90s, my first manager was a guy by the name of Greg LaSpiza. And Greg not only became a good friend, but he was a mentor to me in the early years. And the first really sales call I made with him was a life insurance appointment. And I quickly learned the value in a life insurance policy, but more than the value, I learned how to properly structure a policy, meaning how to properly fund it, how to take snapshots and health checks every 6 to 12 months. And those are the kind of the core values, to go back to your previous question, that I learned and have established and never kind of deviated from in my 22 years. It's setting up the policy, setting it up properly, monitoring it, and taking those, constant annual health checks, if you will.
So it's being proactive and really doing what's best for the client, not just yourself, but really looking out for their best interests.
Of course, if you look out for yours, it's a opportunity. I mean, you're going to be in business not very long. But even those agents that looked out for the best interest of the client, maybe unbeknownst to them at the time, structured and have written policies that don't suit the client's long-term needs. Our needs change. I mean, certainly mine are much different than they were when I started and all along the way. So if you don't take a snapshot and a look at what they have, how it's been funded on a regular basis, these policies can become antiquated and not serve the client's needs very quickly.
And I think that's a great point. And I think it brings us to our case study we did together, which can be seen on the Proformex LinkedIn page, as well as Randy's LinkedIn page as well. If you could just touch on that briefly, how you had a client who was sort of a model citizen, if you will. They really were doing everything right. And through the power of Proformex, as well as your due diligence, you found there was an issue.
So part of the things that I've been doing in my current role in the life business is kind of trying to develop a best practices model, if you will, for policy holders that aren't currently being represented by an agent. For lack of a better word, I call them orphaned policies. So these are people who have been orphaned by the system. The agent that sold them the policy in 1997 got out of the business, is no longer with us, could be deceased, could have went to a different company. But there's thousands of these types of policies out there, and they've just gone by the wayside. So to develop a best practices model, as I mentioned, allows us to reach out to these policyholders, I mentioned, on a regular basis, at least annually, and give them a clear snapshot of what they have, make sure it still fits their needs. So this is exactly what happened to me. An orphan policy came across my desk. I'll call the guy Mike. So I got in touch with Mike, and we had a really nice conversation. He said, "Thanks for calling me. No one's reached out to me in several years." I apologized. I said just what I stated. I'm developing a best practices model, and things are going to change. So at the end of the call, Mike agreed to have me look into his policy and agreed to let me audit the policy, if you will. That's when I sent it to you guys. So I got a current in-force illustration. I got a current annual report. I very easily uploaded it onto the secure system that we've built with you guys. And you sent back your 2-page report. And I quickly, most of it I knew because I know how to analyze and review in-force illustration and with the client print. I knew something was up, but I didn't know exactly. You forecasted the policy to lapse at his age 77. Today he was maybe 52 or 53. So a very early lapse age. And you mentioned this guy was a model policyholder. He's not only a great guy, but he was a great policyholder in that he paid his premium every month systematically on time. He had never missed a payment. He had put a lot more into the policy than a premature lapse age of 77, meaning his cash that has accumulated in this contract should have well supported it to life expectancy. So when we dug a little deeper, we found out that there was a testing constraint on this policy. And what that is there's the life insurance is tested as a financial instrument to make sure it falls under the life insurance banner. And it's not just an investment in someone stuffing money inside a contract. So the only testing limit that was in place when Mike took out his policy, what's called GPT, or guideline premium testing. And basically in 3 or 4 years from today, that policy would not accept any more cash from Mike. So being the model policyholder and doing everything he thought, wow, this is, things should look a lot better. But because of how this policy was tested, and this was the only testing choice back then, it would not accept any more premium from Mike. So if I hadn't set this through and really looked at it and dug deeper, this guy, and not unlike a lot of policyholders who are doing what they're supposed to do, and it's in the paper all the time. There was just an article in the Wall Street Journal on a woman whose policy lapsed at 92, and again, the same way. It's unfortunate, but it's happening. So being able to catch it and correct it was big, and Proformex helped me do that.
No, that's awesome. And I think, sort of touching on your point of these policyholders don't necessarily know what is going on with their policy unless you do those health checks and annual reviews. And so